I don't have a pyrotechnics license, and I definitely don't want to end up like Buster. But maybe we should bust some boat myths. Stick around to find out more. Hi, I'm Sean from Cove Lessons in Boating, and there are tons of boat myths out there. Some of them are completely false, and other of them have a ring of truth to them. We're probably going to make a number of these videos, some of them on general boating myths, which is what today's video is on, and some on market segments. Myth number 1, bigger boats are always safer than smaller boats. Have you ever heard of the Edmund Fitzgerald? Besides the fact that that's another myth, that lakes are always safe when oceans are dangerous. But the truth is that big boats tend to feel safer because they have a larger displacement, they have more room to move around, and tend to not move as much with currents and winds and bob with waves. But truthfully, there are a lot of small boats out there that actually are quite safe. And in fact, sometimes smaller boats can be a little bit safer because they can ride through rough stuff versus getting caught between a peak and a trough and actually damaging the boat. You definitely want to make sure that you're not out in the water in something too small and unsafe. But don't always assume you have to have the biggest boat in the marina just to be safe out on the water. Myth number 2, when you buy a boat, all you really need to do is run it on a hose on the shore. That is completely false. You need to get out on the water and do your lake test. If you want to know more about lake tests, check out our video that we made on it here. But truthfully, when a private seller or even a marine dealership says, I'll just fire it up on the hose for you and show you how well it runs, they're either hiding something or they're being completely lazy. Because sure, it'll start, it'll run and idle, but how well does it handle under load? And until you take that boat out and you take it up on plane or go to wide open throttle, you have no idea whether it's going to overheat, get up to the right RPM range, and how well is it really going to perform. So do not skip the lake test. Myth number 3, buying a boat from a private seller is just as safe as buying it from a marine dealership. We see all the time where people have bought a boat from a private seller and they have all kinds of mechanical problems. They come, they've either not got a proper lake test, there was something wrong with the boat that maybe the owner did or didn't know about. It didn't have a proper inspection by a qualified marine dealership, and therefore it absolutely has more risk involved. So if you are going to buy from a private seller, make sure you do your due diligence and take it possibly into a marine dealership and pay for them to do an inspection or even have a survey. If you want to know more about surveys, check out this video here. So speaking of private sellers, we've had 2 instances in this year alone where 2 boats were stolen from a dealership. One was found and that customer had bought it used secondhand from a private individual, fraudulently, had the serial number changed, and now is completely out of that money. The other person we know of who someone bought a PWC and fraudulently used a false identity and skipped out on the loan, then sold it cheap to someone else, and that person is now out of the money. So by buying it from a dealer, they are responsible to make sure that that boat is safe and that it is free of liens and that there is no one else going to come looking for the money. The other thing about a dealership is that they have a reputation to maintain. They want those 5-star Google reviews, so they're going to do as much as possible to keep you happy if they're a reputable place. Myth number 4, buying a used boat is always cheaper. It almost always is a lower purchase price, absolutely. And we have some videos on new versus used boats here. But truthfully, when you buy a boat, you're going to want to think about the overall cost of ownership. So make sure you're going to think about how much is it going to cost to buy, how much is it worth when I'm done, and how much am I going to have to spend in the middle to keep it operating properly. Sometimes you'll find that a used boat, even though this low purchase price is here, there's more depreciation as it gets to a certain age, and there's definitely more repairs and maintenance in the middle. And by the time you get through that 5 to 10 years, you may find that the used boat was no less expensive than the new. Myth number 5, boats are expensive to insure. In fact, they aren't. I know that a lot of our customers who have boats actually pay less for their boat insurance than they do for their car insurance. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, boats last a long time. People use them for years and years and years, and they're not constantly rolling out of them. And you're not putting all that much time on them. The average boater in our area only puts somewhere between 25 and 50 hours a season on it, where your car, you may put 20, 30, 40,000 kilometers or 20,000 miles on the car in a year, and you expose yourself to a lot of risk. Every stoplight, every intersection, every time you're in a parking lot, there's the potential for a fender bender. Driving out on multi-lane highways. Boat insurers know that people tend not to use them that much. They tend to really baby them, so the insurance premiums aren't that high. The other thing is people make claims all the time on their car. Broken windshield, dented fender. It just seems fairly commonplace. People don't tend to make claims on their boat insurance unless there's a catastrophic loss, a huge liability, running the boat aground, or being stolen. Myth number 6, boat licenses are only for large boats. This is a complete myth and has almost nothing to do with the size of the boat or the power of it. If it's a powered boat and your state or province requires a boating license, it doesn't matter how big or small it is, you're going to need a boating license. If you want to know more about boat licenses, check out this video here. Boating myth number 7. This one's a little controversial because you'll find people who say one thing and other people say the other. But the myth is that you always leave your fuel tank completely full for long-term or winter storage. And you definitely can. Just make sure that if you do, you don't fill it right to the very top, because you're often doing that when the ambient air temperature in the fuel is cool. And in the spring, when the sun comes out and it hits the side of the boat, that fuel is going to expand and come out through the vent and potentially stain your boat. Our recommendation is that you leave your fuel tank around a third or a quarter full, so that in the spring you would fill that fuel tank right to the top with fresh fuel and take your first run on clean fuel going into the engine, so you have the least number of problems that season. Just like any industry or recreational sport, there are tons of myths out there, and some of them are true. Just make sure you know someone who you can ask good advice of, and don't always listen to the first person who bends your ear about boating and the myths. Thanks for watching today's Lens Cove Lessons in Boating. Never drive a boat like this, but make sure you do subscribe for more videos, as we release them every couple weeks, and like this video so that other people like you can see it and hopefully learn more, be safe, have fun in the water, and we'll see you out there.